Welcome to Tell Us What You Made, the show where we each make a dish with a common ingredient or theme, then come together, compare notes, and see if we can learn anything. For this episode, I chose corn. And I chose corn because it's a delicious summer treat. I usually just eat it on the cob with salt and butter, and so I'm very curious how others are using it as an ingredient in creative recipes. So today we have Sean and Inga. Hello, guys.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for making something with corn. Well, Inga, you are first. Please tell us what you made with corn.
Okay, I made corn panna cotta. Something sweet, as inspired by, you know that like Korean corn ice cream sandwich? Have you ever had it?
Is it shaped like corn?
Yes.
I have had that.
With the wafers and then
Yeah,
the vanilla with the corn. So the flavors are kind of inspired by it. So I started out by getting some corn and I actually cut off the kernels first. And the reason being that, well, one, I wanted to separate the cob, and also then I could use the kernels for other things if I wanted to. And technically, you can also use it from, the canned corn.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to use fresh corn because I did want the cob situation there.
Cutting the kernels off the cob, one of the most satisfying things to cut.
Pretty satisfying.
True.
The way they just kind of like pop off.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the bunt pan trick?
No.
Where you
No.
put a corn in the middle of a bunt pan and then you use that to collect everything.
You would?
So it's like a bunt pan has like the little circle in the middle, so you put it in the thing and then you do this and
they
then
fall
it does
into the
this.
thing.
I'm sorry, I don't have a bunt pan.
Those kernels do go everywhere.
But you do have this very nice heart-shaped.
I do have a nice heart-shaped Dutch oven. First thing I'm doing is putting in the cobs. I'm adding in a lot of sugar to bring out the sweetness a little more, and then I'm adding in some whole milk. You want full fat. I'm really just like going full fat on this.
Oh, and the whole cobs are in there too.
Yes,
Okay,
whole cobs. So
yeah.
I'm
You're like
really
infusing
using all of it.
flavor.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like infusing it, yes. I also added heavy cream to this and also a bit of salt. So, there's a lot of sweetness going on there. I'm not really boiling it. I just wanted to like have it on a low simmer for a while. And I actually added more corn afterwards because I would really wanted the corn flavor to come through. I just kind of like eyeballed this, tasting as it went.
One time I went to Brazil.
Okay.
And I was at this breakfast place, and I was so surprised and delighted by the existence of a corn juice.
Yes.
And that's what this is making me think of. It was just like, one of those like constantly circulating hoppers of juice.
Oh.
And it was,
They
and
were
I was
shopping
like,
corn.
this is corn. I'm drinking corn. It was wild.
I feel like in a lot of other countries, you see corn presented in ways that you don't really see in America. So it's very interesting, I think, to kind of play around with this flavor. As you can see, I'm just really letting it take its time here. And then I'm just straining all of that out. I did give this a little taste. Like a cream of corn?
Yeah.
I was gonna think like Pops, corn Pops.
Do you know what corn pops are?
That post-cereal milk.
Corn pops.
It's a cereal that tastes like corn.
Okay, but I guess it would be kind of like that, or like cornflakes, right? Like
Yes.
cornflakes, cereal milk. And also the corn, because it's been steeped in milk for so long. I actually used it in like a ramen dish that I had afterwards. And then also if you like, the cheese, the mozzarella corn cheese,
Yeah.
also very good because there's already so much moisture and cream flavor in there.
I had once like a milk-based hot pot and there were chunks of corn in it. And I remember being really surprised at how good it was. Milk and corn, surprising.
I mean, cream of corn, right?
cream
You
of
kind
corn.
of get the
Corn,
idea.
yeah.
All right, so then to help solidify it, we're using a bit of gelatin here. I didn't want it to be like a jello situation, so I just measured it based off of, how much liquid I had. And I'm double straining it because I really wanted it to be smooth. This is where I'm adding a little bit of mascarpone. Because again, with the I really wanted full fat, and the mascarpone has this sort of very smooth, creamy texture that will help it. And took a little bit to help dissolve this, but the heat of the mixture, I think, definitely helped with that. And then I'm adding in the gelatin, which is set. And then I think I just heated this up a little bit more maybe to help it melt. Making sure the gelatin is all dissolved.
What's the strainer for?
And I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any gelatin bits in there. Because I feel like a good panna cotta, you have to be super, super smooth. You don't want any lumps. I remember this from the Kitchen Gadget video, the one that, the little burger trays.
Oh, yeah.
I like it
Yeah.
a lot, yeah.
Okay, I gotta explain this. You're not gonna see the final product of this because I could not remove it from the mold. Failed experiment. I didn't even try. I didn't even bother shooting
What
it.
was it? Like, what were you trying to do?
It's like a dome-shaped mold. So I wanted it to be like a perfect little dome, but then because of how little gelatin I put in there, it just couldn't hold its shape. So I ended up putting it in this glass because I thought it just looked better. And then, so remember for on the menu,
I see.
yes.
see it.
Remember for the cheesecake, Chef Marge was presenting it a certain way.
Yeah.
This is me learning and practicing right away. So Harry's berries for sweetness. Because strawberries and corn, I mean, you don't need it, but I like strawberries.
Yeah,
Felt
and
like it could go
yeah.
well.
strawberries are a tart, acidic fruit.
Granted, these are very sweet, but
Strawberries and corn, the classic combination. As always, stellar plating.
hey, I'm just
Yeah.
learning from the
Let's
best,
get-
you know.
You love to do a
Yeah.
spiral
I
circle.
do. I
Yeah.
think they're okay. And then so this
Okay.
was the strawberry juice that Chef Marge was also telling about. So that's exactly what I did. Cut up strawberries, put a little bit of sugar, and just put it over my oven as it was on, and it just sat there for a little bit. So this is like just very concentrated strawberry juice.
Wow, that looks great. A Mara de Bois for the top.
Mare de Bois. That's what I was gonna say.
These are
I
Mare de
found
Bois?
these are Mare de Bois. I mean the Gaviotas
yeah.
too, but I think the reason I chose to use these was because I was so excited that I found them at the local grocery
Yeah.
store that I just like I had to incorporate it in some
Yeah.
way.
Remind us what Mar de Bois are.
Mare de Bois are a type of strawberry variety, also from Harry's Berries, and they are known to be even more intense strawberry flavor.
Yeah.
But they're so small, and it was like a little clamshell because they're so limited in quantity.
And it's almost like a more similar to like what you said about corn. It's not like savory, but it is more like a full flavor rather than
Yes.
your regular strawberry.
Yeah.
It kind of tastes like the strawberry candies that are wrapped in a
Yes.
strawberry
Yes.
wrapper. Like it fills your mouth in a way that's
Yes.
Yeah.
really
Like
different.
even
yeah.
before you taste it, the smell of it is so strong in
Yeah.
the way you would smell like I don't know, like how you would imagine a strawberry to be, right? So that's what we have here. All right, so here we have my corn panna cotta
Wow.
served with strawberry, and then I just wanted you to see the part where I scoop it in. As you see, the
It's
juices in.
delightful.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like a strawberry cheesecake a little bit, but
It really
Yeah.
does.
but the panna cotta, the texture is almost like a milk custard, right? Like a tofu
Yes, I
custard,
was
like
gonna say.
very, very. The jiggle there to show you, it really did feel like silky smooth, which is exactly what I wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted it to be barely set.
So how is the corn flavor?
So it did taste a little bit like, I think like cream of corn, but very faint. I had my brother taste this too. And he actually did not pick up on the corn flavor when he first had it. He was like, oh, did you put like salt in it? Like some sort of like he was like, there's something there. I don't know what it is. But when I told him that it was corn and he had it again, he was like, oh, I taste it now. I think so. It's one of those things
That's
where
nice.
it's very subtle, but you know there's something there.
Looks great.
Thank you. So Sean, you're up next. Tell us what you made.
I made corn.
Tell us.
I made corn tortillas.
Oh, such a Sean thing to make.
I've never made tortillas before. My mom's from Southern California. I grew up eating a lot of Mexican food, usually just like store-bought tortillas that are not super good quality. And it's a process that I know is really intense and takes a lot of knowledge, like hand knowledge, to be able to make. And so it felt like something that I wanted to do. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna get dried white corn. You're gonna put it through a process. It's called nixtamalization. It's a process that was created by a lot of indigenous folks in Central and South America. And so what you're doing is you are boiling it in a alkaline solution, and it's basically allowing the kernel to separate from the hull. And then you're also making it softer and more easy to process. And also you're making it more nutritional as like an actual food source. I did like a lot of reading about sort of like how to make tortillas.
At the library?
Not the library this time. A lot of the knowledge is like, folks passing it down to their families. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos of folks making it. There was one in particular called Views from the Road that I found very, very helpful, where she walked through the process, both doing it straight from flour, like that's already prepared, and then from the actual kernel itself. So I wasn't able to replicate the actual process. It requires a piece of equipment that I didn't have, but I'll show you later sort of how I got around that. This is an alkaline powder. It kind of got everywhere. It's sort of like ramen, where you add an alkaline solution to the noodles. This, I think, is a higher pH level, but basically it allows the kernels to process. Here I am adding the kernels, adding my water, and then here I am adding the lime itself. It was kind of hard to find this lime. I had to go to a few different grocery stores to find it.
And it's like lime, like the mineral.
The mineral.
Not the fruit.
Not the fruit. Yes, lime the mineral.
Sorry, so what does this do again?
So what it does is, in plain speak, it basically removes, and I'm saying this as somebody who like read about it on the internet. I am not at all an expert, please understand. It basically softens the kernel and allows for the kernel and the husk to separate.
Okay.
And then it means that when you go into the grinding process, it's going to be softer, and then it's also going to allow it to be processed nutritionally.
Okay,
As
cool.
Yeah,
food.
by your body.
Yep.
Very cool.
Because we all know the experience of how corn does not get processed by your body.
Yes.
What?
I'm not going any further into that.
After boiling it in the solution, you leave it overnight to rest, and then
Okay.
you end up with this. So it's
Oh.
It's basically all the kernels. You'll notice that it's grown in size. I believe at this point is hominy.
Oh.
Like I believe hominy is nixtamalized corn. And then all I did is I washed it and then removed any of the hulls. You can see it. It looks like candy corn.
It does look like a cartoon corn kernel
It
now.
looks like a carton of corn. So at this point, what you're supposed to do is you have a piece of equipment called metate. Also, I pronounce Spanish words with a Japanese accent. I'm trying my best. Just deep apologies. But you have a piece of equipment called a metate, and this is where it gets really intense, where you're rolling it out. And so it's a really labor-intensive process to make essentially the dough that you're going to be using. You want to do that so that it gets like really fine. It's kind of like a mortar and pestle, but it's a piece of stone, and you have like a stone roller. So rather than going like this, you're going like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we going to see this?
No, because I couldn't find a metate. So instead I use a food processor, which is not as good. Apparently, if you don't have a metate, the best thing to do is use a blender. So blended it up. You'll notice that it was still pretty rough, so it took a long time. I probably blended it for a solid like 10 minutes.
Dang.
On and off. And then we ended up with this, it almost feels like sand at this point. It was still a little bit too rough, so I kept it going, but it was also too dry. So I wanted to add a little bit of water just to adjust. You don't see in this video, but I put the water into the food processor and I turned away. And then when I turned back, it had turned into a ball. So it really, the texture,
It changed
it changes
suddenly.
really
Yeah.
quickly.
That reminds me of when I made butter and I was over beating milk and I
Yeah.
was like, this is just kind of nasty water right
Yeah.
now. And then all of a sudden it was like a mound of butter had formed.
Yeah. So from there, you take it. I was just testing the texture. You want it to not break too much. Mine was still breaking, but it felt like if I added more water, I didn't want it to turn into like a slurry. So I added a little bit more water just to like get it into a formable ball, as you can
So
see.
is this now masa?
This is masa de maíz, yes. If you dry it, it will become the flour, and you end up with these little balls. As you can see, it like gives, it doesn't crack too much. That's what I was looking for. But this step is very intuition driven. Like that step is all about knowing, sort of like after making batches and
Yeah.
batches and
I
batches,
think
like
it-
how it should
yeah,
feel.
it happens with dough. I feel like once you start working with dough a lot, you just kind of know where to stop. Did you have to rest it?
I don't know if I had to rest it, but I did rest it.
Okay.
Just to let it hydrate more.
Yeah.
I started to prep the tortillas. Basically what you want to do is when you're making your tortillas, you want to have it in between two pieces of plastic so it's easy to tear off. So I used a Ziploc bag and I just cut it into
A book.
a little book.
Pretty smart.
And then I found this tortilla press. It was like $5 at the grocery store where
That
I
looks
was
serious.
buying, where I was
Yeah.
like buying all my ingredients. And so from there, I weighed out the balls to make sure that they were the right size. I will say after I rested them, I do think that they lost a little bit of that hydration. And so it wasn't quite as together as I wanted it to be, but I moved ahead. And here we started making it.
Oh,
Is it gonna come
It was a
out?
little tricky, and there we were.
That looks legit.
It looks nice.
For a first try, I think it's okay. The edges are a little
great.
bit too shaggy. It's a little bit thicker than I wanted it to be. And I will say, over the course of my pressing, they got progressively more lopsided.
Oh.
I think that the press itself was having issues like with stability.
Okay.
I bought this comal, again, it was very cheap. So it was leaving like lines on my tortillas and branding them.
Why are you using your...
You got a spatula.
And so then from there, it cooked really fast. This is me
Sean.
trying to flip it over with my hands.
I know
Great.
the professionals do that, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. We're
I'm
doing it.
worried.
So you don't do it for too long. You just want to see like all of the moisture
Ooh.
disappear.
Okay.
What I was looking for,
This is the angle.
yeah. So
Oh, look, it's puffing.
this is what
Yeah.
you're looking for.
Okay.
If you have the perfect amount of moisture, like the moisture is really important for this dough. If you have the right amount of moisture, it'll puff up. Like it'll
Steam inside.
Yes,
And then
yes. This was your first one?
probably not. No. This is,
Because this reminds me of when I made naan bread for Indian foods, and it took me like 7 tries before I got the right moisture,
I
like the
think-
right way to do it.
I think if I had made another batch, it probably would have. What I did was I sauteed up some mushrooms. I threw in some like chili powder. I threw in some oregano. I threw in some other spices, and then I chopped up some chile de árbol and put that in, and it was like really tasty. Like I was very impressed with myself.
Okay. Nice.
Stuffed it up, threw out some cilantro on.
looks great.
Yeah.
I had gotten tacos the night before, and so I saved the lime, and then I used the
Oh.
taqueros like
The lime too.
salsa verde, and it was great. So that's the
Oh.
taco
Ooh,
that I
that
ended
looks
up with,
very good.
and I think it turned out pretty good.
How's the corn flavor?
It was corny.
The thumbs up.
What would you have done differently, like if you do it again?
I think I would have paid more attention to the moisture. I think I would have probably spent a little bit more time trying to get the consistency right. I want to do even more video watching just to
Right.
like really study how people get it to the right consistency. And I also really want to try the metate. Like I think
Yeah.
that honestly, if I had had a more manual way to regulate the consistency, I think that it would have turned out a lot better.
I'm blown away. You nixtamalized corn. Great job.
You know,
Yeah.
I wanted to try it. I feel like this is back to me wanting to know how things happen. So Andrew, you're the one who suggested corn. Tell us what you
Yes.
made.
I made corn fritters.
Oh, that's
Oh, wait, what style corn fritters though? There's so many.
There are a lot, yeah. When I was traveling to Japan for work, we had corn fritters at this restaurant. And
was
it
the whole
was so good. It blew my mind. And that's what motivated me to make these and suggest corn, although I didn't really replicate them.
Oh, okay.
I do not have the proficiency to do whatever was happening then. This was also like 5 years ago, but I made some corn fritters because also in the summer, what I really like to do with fresh vegetables is turn them into fritters. It's like a nice way of like doing kind of a lot, but also not a lot.
Yep.
So I started with my corn.
Nice
Go with the
corn.
corn.
This stuff is the worst. The corn hair. Also, my job as a child was always husking the corn.
Really?
Yeah, I would just have to like stand over the trash.
I've never heard anyone refer to as corn hair,
What do you call it?
corn silk.
Corn silk, yeah.
Corn
Actually-
whiskers.
Really?
No, I don't know. I just
Corn
made that up.
threads. I was gonna remove the kernels, but to make it a little bit easier, I started by chopping the ears in half and then removing.
Why are they called ears?
It's a great question. This was maybe like 4 ears of corn, and then I just kind of broke up all the kernels because you know when you do the slice, you end up with these kind of planks. And for my fritters, I just wanted the loose kernels. So here's my batter: an egg and some water, and then approximately equal flour. Although I think I was just kind of like playing this by ear, making it up, trying to discover what consistency was gonna hold the corn together because that was kind of my biggest like unknown. Usually if I'm making a fritter, like I make zucchini fritters a lot, but there's like a lot of like interlocking things that kind of hold it together, and corn is just like this loose thing. So at this point I was just like, all right, I'm gonna add some corn to this and we'll see how loose or tight it is, and maybe I'll do a test fry and we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I added salt at some point, but I tend to just like never film that. Well, salt in particular, it's always like I shut the camera off and then I'm like, oh yeah, salt. So I thought this was pretty good. From my recollection, it was like a cluster, and I wasn't really sure what to expect. So I got a pot of oil, nice and hot, and this is maybe like an inch of oil.
Is this so salt is the only seasoning so far?
So far, yeah.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, that's holding together. I'll do a couple more. And this is my test fritter.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah.
I like all the little loose.
Oh yeah, those are
loose
the
ones,
you know
that's
those are the best
the
parts.
best
I was
part,
gonna
yeah,
say,
yeah.
I was also concerned that these were just going to suddenly start popping. I was like, what
Oh my
what
God.
stops the kernel from just becoming popcorn? And thankfully, it just never happened. It's just like a little savory Rice Krispie treat. And the flavor was pretty ordinary, not gonna lie, guys. I was just like, yeah, this tastes like corn. It's fried, it's a little bit crispy. It's very sweet.
Ooh.
Wow.
And it just feels like kind of an intense bite of corn.
It looks very
That's what-
satisfying
yeah.
though still.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I wasn't mad at it. It tasted good, but I was like, this is not exciting. And it's not what I had back in Japan. It was just, I remember that corn was just like the sweetest, most delicious thing. And so I was like, okay, I need to do more to this. So I was like, I'm gonna try to use the flavors of elote and make a corn fritter with that, okay? So I still had that big bowl of the batter and the corn, and now I started adding some more ingredients. So I started with some red onion that I just thinly sliced.
You are so. your onion
Dang, look at that.
chopping.
Yeah.
And I had some cilantro that I just did sort of a coarse chop because I want those big sections of stem. And then the same bowl with the corn and the batter, I added the onion, the cilantro. I think that's some ancho chili powder and some lime juice. I was like, hey, why not?
Great colors.
And then I
Cheese?
also added some cotija cheese. Although I'm skipping forward a little bit, I think I could have just saved this for being exclusively a topping because it sort of disappeared into it. But I think what it did do was add a lot of necessary salt and a little bit more sticky texture. So I just kind of played with this. I ended up probably adding a little bit more red onion, maybe a little bit more cilantro until I saw that like, okay, when this becomes a fritter, there will be like a lot happening in here. And I think this time I also just got like a little bit more aggro with the heat, and I ended up making them a lot crispier, which I think was also what was missing in the initial batch. So here you can see they've really sort of turned it into this like,
Wow.
Golden.
almost like a potato pancake of corn. I think also with all these other added ingredients, the proportion of batter has gone down. It's the shape of a pile of corn
Yeah.
rather than having like a lot of excess batter around it.
So that's how I remember having it before, where it was more like one layer of corn versus like a clump. And so I think that that allows for this to be crispier because of the surface area.
Yeah, and as is the case always when making this kind of fritter, it's really like numbers 3, 4, and 5 where you hit the rhythm of the heat and you're like, okay, I know how far I can take it before it's gonna threaten to burn. And guys, these were pretty good. Also, it has that thing where like the little cilantro that pokes out the side that gets fried and is just kind of like loosely coated in batter is like actually the best part. And so to take this like even further on the theme of elote or esquites, I have some lime on the side, and then I put some crema over the whole thing. And I was a little bit worried. I was like, am I just gonna ruin the texture by making this soggy? But no, honestly, it could have standed to have even more crema. And this cotija cheese is like awesome. Wow. It's kind of that like the same thing with Parmesan on pasta. No amount of cheese in something can replace the satisfaction of cheese on top of something. And that's my elote-inspired fritters.
Dang.
That's great.
I think the key to that crispiness too is that the batter isn't meant to be there. It's just like a vehicle to bind it all together, right? You don't want to actually taste the batter as much. Wow.
These were pretty tasty, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
That looks really great.
So, those were my corn fritters. It was also very satisfying to just have a general concept of something to do and then just kind of like build on top of it. I don't often do that with cooking, where I start somewhere and then I tweak and add and arrive somewhere else that I didn't really picture at the start. And it turned out great.
That's the most fun. I feel like that's what I always end up doing. I'm the reverse of that. I always start out by doing something and then I get carried away by something and I'm just like, okay, take me with you. Great result.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so we had Inga's corn panna cotta, Sean's homemade corn tortillas, including nixtamalized corn, and my corn fritters. If you have any other ways you like to use corn, we'd love to know about it. But otherwise, thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bite.
Corn
Later.
voyage.
Corn.
No, that doesn't work.
We're gonna be here forever.
Ear.
Corners.
Goodbye. Cut.